This video is brought to you by Squarespace. Welcome back, everyone. We're going to do some viewer mail today. I'm going to start off with not one, but two books that were sent in by a gentleman named Paul Wakefield. If you're not familiar with Paul, he's a really good photographer. He's based in the UK, and he's known for being a landscape photographer, and this is his landscape book, which is amazing. But he also sent me this, which is really cool. It's called Rites, Signs of Devotion, which we'll get into in a second. It's a little more documentarian in nature. These are absolutely wonderful, and Paul also did include a note, which I'll read to you here. He says, "Dear Ted, I am sending you a copy of my latest book, Indian Rites, Signs of Devotion, published by the Banaras Cultural Foundation in India. I thought I'd also include a copy of The Landscape that was published by Envisage in 2014 and almost sold out. I wrote an intro for Norman McCloskey's book, Kingdom, and he recently told me about your YouTube site, so I hope you enjoy them both. Signs of Devotion is an outsider's vision of the spiritual practices performed as part of the daily life in different parts of India. Best wishes, Paul." So I want to start out with The Landscape, and I know, Paul, that you're not looking for a review on these. The work in here is absolutely top-notch, and if you guys are really interested in landscape work, you really need to be aware of what Paul does. What I love about this is the way that he sequences these landscape images with color, with composition. I mean, first of all, they're absolutely beautiful, each one under their own. These are technically very difficult images to get. He's using large format cameras for a lot of these. They really are exceptional. He divides this up also into various chapters in here. We've got shorelines. This takes us to rockscapes. We've got drylands, woodlands, and finally snowscapes. I mean, these are shot all over the world, and if you're interested, there's an index in the back so you can see what the locations are. And it's also interesting, Paul, that you mentioned Norm McCloskey, because Norm is an exceptional photographer too. Obviously, you guys know each other, and his work is very different, but also very beautiful. And man, this is exceptional. But the one that I'm really, really impressed with is Signs of Devotion. This is absolutely beautiful work. It's very different than the Landscapes book, but I've always wanted to visit India. I've never had an opportunity to do it, and a friend of mine who has done it several times and been able to photograph over there told me over dinner one night that he felt like India was a complete assault on the senses, and you'll never see anything else like it. But what I'm really impressed with is that Paul is able to shoot in a completely different style. This is more what you would expect to see if Henri Cartier-Bresson were still alive and shooting in color. It's more documentarian in style. The colors in here are absolutely gorgeous. I love the look of everything through here. I don't know if this was done on film or not, but this one definitely feels more like 35 millimeter documentary photography, whereas the Landscapes book is, from a technical perspective, large format and very labor intensive. But man, both of these are just exceptional, and I really don't want to critique any further than that because I wouldn't change anything. They're amazing. Thank you for sharing with me both of these, Paul. They're fantastic, and if you guys want to check these out, I'll link up to Paul's work in the show description. I also know that Paul's on Instagram. I started following him recently. Seems like a really cool guy, and man, these are really amazing. So I don't really know what else to say. This is like jaw-droppingly good. Anyway, check him out. Paul, thanks for sending, man. These are awesome. All right, so tough act to follow, but this gentleman does it pretty well. This is from Faraz Ravi, who is a London-based photographer. This is called Seasons of the Fallen. It is a collection of essentially treescapes, I want to call these. There is no note in here, so I really don't know anything about Faraz except that his photography is outstanding. I'll read you just a little bit of what he has in here for the text. So this is Seasons of the Fallen. "We see only through our own hourglass, a distorting glass vessel that wraps the world into itself. Moment by moment, particles of grain fall through, one after the other. The potential energy spent or misspent gathers below as a pile of moments, piled one upon another, falling with equal pace, through an interval that grows increasingly shorter. Here I have gathered fragments, moments of seasons, states of strength and vitality, but mostly of weakness and ultimately of demise. A reflection of our own being in the world, our fragility, susceptibility to forces beyond ourselves, many of which we would rather not confront. A chestnut tree twirling upwards and catching the early light in its branches between its leaves. Later it becomes a victim of forces it could not handle. And still others deeper in the woodlands, oaks, beeches, and birches. Some recently fallen, others slowly evolving into eerie sculptural prehistoric forms, having fallen decades earlier. The half oak stood atop a hill. I revisited it many times. These photographs were captured during the following years of a destructive pandemic and the restrictions on freedoms that came with it, a time in which many confronted the irony of finding liberation in being restricted and rooted to the ground beneath their feet. It did not fit well with what we understood about ourselves. There exists between the interplay of freedom and constraint moments that only stillness can deliver, deeply satisfying and often creatively productive. We search for what enters and passes, that moves through the states, the souls of beings, the mystery that is alluded to beyond named forms. We know they are there. Faraz, this is outstanding. First of all, if you told me that I was about to look at a bunch of trees and there would be a narrative involved and actually a concept behind it, man, you have done this really well. The other thing that I want to mention is that I love how this is printed. The quality on here is exceptional. He also includes gold embossing on the front. This is really, really good. I really can't say enough about this. I like the narrative. I like the idea. It's very Buddhist in general, but the whole idea of fragility and the changing of seasons and the sense of impermanence that we get through something like a forest with specific trees in it. And I think this is exceptional. Man, I really appreciate you sending me a copy. This is some good stuff today, folks. And if you want to copy this, I'll link Faraz in the show description below. But man, you should be just over the moon proud about this. This is awesome, man. All right, we've got another double header coming up here. So these are two books by the same photographer, and they are very different. But real quick, I want to give a shout out to our sponsor today, who are the awesome folks over at Squarespace. How easy is it to build an amazing website in a matter of minutes? Squarespace has you covered. It's dead simple. Head over to Squarespace, hit Get Started. You can start by using Squarespace Blueprint AI and SEO tools, which will give you an impressive website in no time. Something unique because, you're not like other websites. Give your site a name. Next, you can build your homepage. We'll start with a few preset layouts just to get us going. Want to sell products like prints, books, maybe you make a zine? Well, you can feature those on your homepage. Create a few more sections if you want. Let's also give it a color palette. There's a whole bunch to choose from. Just get us started. We can change this all later. Next, let's select the typography choices. Welcome to your website. Everything is set up and it's all ready for you to customize. Squarespace is built on Fluid Engine, the next generation of website design. Select Edit, and Fluid Engine allows you to drag, place, and resize any element on the page. You can snap these to a grid, you can make them float on top of one another, you can freeform however you like. You can even preview and adjust how the site looks on either desktop or mobile. The layouts are independent. Of course, you'll want a portfolio for your work. Creating an image gallery is as easy as dropping a folder of images on your web browser. Once uploaded, you can drag to resort, customize the look, and Squarespace writes all of the code for you. Everything just works and it looks fabulous. Want to sell your own prints, books, or zines? Flexible payments allow you to make the checkout process absolutely seamless when you sell products or services. You can accept credit cards, PayPal, Apple Pay, and in eligible countries, you can offer customers the option to buy now and pay later with Afterpay and ClearPay. You should try Squarespace for yourself. It's absolutely free, no credit card required. Just go to squarespace.com/AOP, sign up for that free trial. If you decide Squarespace is right for you, I can save you an additional 10% on your order by using offer code AOP on checkout. That's right, the code is AOP. So stop procrastinating, go build your website today. And I want to give a special shout out and thanks to Squarespace for sponsoring this video. All right, so next up, I've got two books that have come to us from a photographer by the name of Sasse. The first one is called Beyond the Studio Door, which is really good. I'm not really sure why this was in here, but this is called Artistic Thoughts, Photographs, Quotes, and Inspiration for the Artist by Sasse. So I'll read you a little bit of Jean's note here. It says, "Hi Ted, Beyond the Studio Door is a project that I put together earlier this year. From time to time, I would wander around outside my studio complex and surrounding areas to see what I could find to photograph. I found my subject matter to be in trash bins, the parking lot, buildings, and the view of the local mountains. My studio is located about 45 miles east of Los Angeles. I'm a commercial photographer, adjunct professor, and museum founder. I started my photography business in 1973. I founded the Sasse Museum of Art in 2013, and I teach several photography classes part-time at a nearby community college. The museum's collection has about 1,700 objects, with around 40% being photography. The collection can be viewed on our website, and I'll link that in the description below. I've also included a book I produced on 100 objects from our collection that is just for you to enjoy. Holding a book is much better than looking at a computer screen. Thank you for taking the time to look at this. Okay, Gene, I should have read that first because Artistic Thoughts makes a little more sense then. I have to be honest with you, I'm not a big fan of quotes and images being put together. I think it probably works. I think something like this, if you are selling it in your museum, would definitely be popular. I think a lot of people do like this kind of thing. So I have to say, when I opened up your package, I looked at this one first. The second one I pulled out was this, Beyond the Studio Door. And man, this is outstanding. I really, really love this. I'm really blown away. I mean, this is a collection of abstract images. I am, as most of you know, pretty harsh and critical when it comes to abstract photography because I think for a lot of photographers it's just kind of an easy thing to do and they don't push it very hard. That is not the case with Mr. Sassy's work. This is excellent. It reminds me a lot of, if you guys remember when Irving Penn did his little still lives of cigarette butts and things he would find in the street. It was essentially trash images and they were really cool and he did these platinum palladium prints, and a lot of this reminds me of that approach. It also reminds me of a book I did in the last mail time from a German photographer who had this idea, what he called reduction. So, you know, if you think of photography being essentially a reduction technique where you're deciding on what you're going to leave in the image, and it's more important really what you're leaving out sometimes. When you reduce these down and down and down, you start to get these abstract forms. I love the pairings in here. I love the way you've organized this. It really speaks very well. It's really interesting. The only thing I would suggest in here, and you do it on the last two images, everything in here is kind of this macro level point of view. And I love that, but I kind of start to question, is it possible to do on something that is not macro, something that's actually very large in scale? Can you get the same kind of cropping reductive technique? Gene, this is outstanding, and I really appreciate you sharing. And I'm sorry I was not more fond of your other book in here, but this, though, you should be really proud of. I am very interested in your museum, and I want to know more about it, so I will definitely check that out. So if you guys are interested in getting copies of these, check Gene's work out. This is A+, man. I really love it. Lots of good work today. If you guys have any questions or comments, make sure you drop me a comment below. I'll see you guys in the next video. Until then, later.